Sorry guys, it kicked me off already. The Wi-Fi is not that great here at the shop. But it is Wednesday, October 27th, and this is another Junior Dragster Tech Talk. Let the room fill up a little bit here. See, we're working on a little 1190 today. Show you some parts, then we'll start answering some questions. Today, I turned on the messaging feature on the live feed here, and you guys are welcome to message live, and it'll show up and I can answer them on the fly, and you guys will be able to see the questions also. So if you kind of type in a message, everybody should be able to see it. I turned on that feature. But anyways, back to the little engine here, why the room's filling up. This is a Woods 1190 motor. You can see we're finally getting these motors back in stock. We use stainless steel valves in them. We use the ARC connecting rods and the Wisco piston and the billet cam. Billet crank. You can see all the black accessories, all anodized. So, what's up, Bobby? How are you, man? Thanks for tuning in. Harold. Impy's in the room. Impy, thanks for watching, man. Okay, so we got 25 people already watching, so I'm going to kind of just dive right into it. I made some notes of some comments. We got one right off the bat from Tom. Tom is going to a 790 index race with the Pro Tree this weekend, and he is asking how to set up his car to react quicker for that Pro Tree. Tom, that's a great question. I'm going to go over some of the things that you may want to try to help your car react quicker on the Pro Tree. First thing that comes to mind right off the bat is maybe run some straight spindles. You definitely don't want to run offset spindles, being that you're looking for a quick reaction time. So a straight spindle on the front will definitely give you the quickest reaction time. Second thing is definitely making sure you got no slack in the throttle cable. Third thing would be make sure your front tires are aired up to the maximum amount that the inner tube will allow you to run. Is everybody hearing me okay? Just kind of comment yes if the audio sounds okay. We're actually going over how to make your car, your Junior Dragster, react quicker on a Pro Tree. So we've already mentioned about the the front tires maxing out on the air, straight spindles. Now let's kind of go into the clutch. Clutch is my favorite. So this is going to kind of sound a little weird, but this is how my experience has been trying to get the car to kind of jump out of the beams fast. And it will probably sacrifice a little reaction time trying to do this. But if you got a good starting line, okay, and the track prep is there, and you got a good car, that plants the tire well, you actually want to run a little bit more air gap with the front clutch. So in a shockwave, you guys adjust the shims under the spider, and that changes the air gap. So if you run more air gap, basically you will get kind of the car to rev up and then hit the belt, and what will happen is the belt will dead grab and the car will jerk out of the beams. So you will probably sacrifice a little reaction time, but the car will, when it does plant the tire, it will really accelerate out of the beam. So if you're looking for a quick launch, and you can anticipate that tree, you will probably get that running more air gap. Now, there are some cases where you also can run less air gap and be quick out of the tree too, but you are going to slip the belt. So the tighter the air gap you run on the clutch, the belt air gap, the more likely you are to slip the clutch, and it will be a little slower out of the beams. So hopefully that helps you guys. Those are just some of the quick and dirty things that you can try to get your reaction time quicker on the Pro Tree. And of course, raising idle RPM, running a lower gear ratio, take your 4:3 to 1 ratios off and put a 6 to 1 on there. And make sure you don't spin the tire. If you spin the tire, you're not moving out of the beams. So Tom, I hope that helps you. We can go into more depth and detail if you'd like, but I think for the bracket racer, the normal bracket racer that switches his bracket car over to running Pro Tree, what I mentioned should help you, get to where you need to go. I'm going to look at some of the questions here. Harold, you're welcome. I'm doing this for you guys, to help you out, everybody. So we got Paul. How do I keep my son's junior from spinning so hard at the hit? Spins to the 60. So Paul, that, great question. Track surface, and the prep on the track plays a big role in consistent launches. If you're running on older facilities and or at night, and it's starting to get to the time of year where, you got that dew setting in towards the end of the day when it gets cold at night, you may not be able to get that spinning out of it. Spinning to 60 foot, I would say that's a track, prep issue. But I'd have to see the graph. So if you want to maybe private message me a Micron graph, just a screenshot, let me take a look at it and I can maybe help you privately. Let's see, who else? What about okay, so Jamie says, what about just a pan outlaw clutch? Jamie, elaborate on that a little bit. I think you might have a typo on there. Not sure what just a pan is. Okay, she says adjustments on an outlaw clutch. Okay, so Jamie, most of these viewers are for, running the bracket racing. I'd be happy to do a live feed on just what I kind of know about the Outlaw 330 racing and what the clutches need to be set like. But I'll try to help you out quick here. Most of the time when we ran the 330 cars, our adjustments were in the back clutch, and maybe we tickled the front clutch just a little bit, half a gram here or there. And most of the time we left the same ramp in there, and we manipulated the helix to change the curvature of how the graph looked going down the racetrack. And believe it or not, the main jet plays a big role in Outlaw 330 to pick up or lower the RPMs. So if you are looking to, like, say, take load off the motor, typically you can put more main jet in it and it'll raise the RPM. I know that's opposite of what you think, but that's the reality of what happens. And if you lean it, you kind of make less power, and it will lower the RPM. Unless you go faster, when you're riching it and you cycle the clutch quicker and it loads the motor earlier, and then that will actually bring the RPM down if the 1-to-1 time changes. So the Outlaw 330 stuff is very intense on the tuning, and I think that basically more or less what I can tell you is just make as many runs as you can anytime the track is open to test. Anytime there's a lane available to run that car, you need to take it down there and run it, and try different things, and sooner or later it'll start clicking for you, and you guys will do really good. Let's see, I'm going to look at some more questions here. Okay, So Edward says, what do the weights on the arms on the polar clutch do? For example, I have 7 grams, and what would happen if I switched to 5 grams? What can I expect? Okay, Edward, great question. Okay, so what Edward is saying is he has a polar clutch. So it's not a shockwave. This is a polar clutch. So it's either a choo-choo, a Huddleston, Blossom, half scale, one of those style clutches, and gauge, or it may even just be an original polar. But so he's talking about the arm weight. So he's saying he has 7 grams on each arm, and he's wondering what the results would be if he moved down to 5. Well, we have kind of figured out, Edward, that each gram on a polar clutch, on each arm, so if you remove 1 gram off each arm, 3 total, you will basically raise the RPM 150. So, you can kind of back into that math, but roughly if you took 3 grams off each arm, that would be 9 grams total. You'd be looking at probably close to 500 RPM, 400 or so of RPM increase of the flat line, shift, everything. So basically you're going to move your curve all the way up, 400 or 500 RPMs. So if that's what you want to do, because your engine is making, power at a higher RPM, or you're spinning the tire, or you just kind of want to go slower, that's what you should expect when you move the weight around on a polar. Okay, so hopefully that helps you. Todd, man, what up? My boy Todd Shaw is in the house right now. Really excited to have him watching. Todd, hopefully when we do this next time, we can do a joint, a joint tech talk, so we can bounce some conversation off of each other. That'd be really cool. But actually, I think, Todd, I know you're busy building blocks, so we need to keep you in the machine shop cutting aluminum. Gary Emmett, thank you for tuning in. He's got a question here. How can we stop Gage Ratchford from winning the 10 grand spooktacular race this weekend? Any help would be appreciated. I thought Gage Ratchford retired. I mean, I really did. I think he's probably rusty. I don't think they've been out since like Bristol or something. So I think you all have a pretty good shot, at taking him down this weekend, Gary. Hopefully if we can get that new Woods motor on your car, you get to run it a little bit, get some laps on it, you'll be able to run with them. But, Gage is a good driver. Chris is a good tuner. And Mama keeps everything straight with the boys. So they're a deadly combo. I know that they all had the virus, and I'm glad that, Gage and his dad and mom and everybody and the kids are feeling better, and they're planning to go race this weekend. But yeah, that's funny, Gary. Yeah, good luck to you guys. Todd, cool. All right, glad to see you are interested in maybe joining in on this deal next time we do one. Okay, so does anybody else have any questions tonight? I got something exciting to tell you guys that that you'd probably all want to know, especially all the people that have these engines on order over here, the billet motors. Tomorrow, I am flying out at 9 a.m. to go visit JR Race Car, and I'm going to see how it's going over there on these blocks. So they don't know I'm coming, and so they'll have to tune into this to find out, or they're going to be very surprised to see me at their shop. So JR Race Car is based out of, the Denver area in Colorado, and they're building a lot of the billet blocks and stuff for everybody now. They're kind of, in my opinion, probably, I'm not going to go say they're building the best one, because Todd builds a really nice billet block, but they're probably one of the only billet blocks that are in production right now, and they're very nice and they run good. Um, so I have a lot of them on order. A lot of your customers, my customers that are probably watching, um, you know, are waiting for their engines, and I appreciate everybody being patient on that. I really do. But I need to go see what's going on over there, and I'm gonna go fly over there and see how their operation looks, and hopefully they're like in production on these blocks, and we can meet some of these Christmas presents and everything that you guys are looking to give your kids and all that for Christmas. So that'll be fun. Sean, yes, we can do lunch tomorrow, man, or dinner. I actually fly back home Friday afternoon, like night-ish, so I'll let you know. I'll send you a text, Sean, when I get into town tomorrow. Tommy Reed, let's answer your question here. An 890 engine, how many passes do you recommend putting on them before rebuilding, and what needs to be replaced at that point? Tommy, good question. How many passes do you need to put on your motor before you send it in for a rebuild? 890 engine. I would say 200. 200 is a pretty good average number for a just a conventional 3x3 890. So rods need to be replaced, the connecting rod, the rings. You got to refresh the cylinder, hone it, redo the valve job, check the valve springs. So just a kind of a routine deal. Typically if the motor is pretty new, you don't have to replace any of the major parts like the cam or the crank, or hopefully not the lifters. So a price on that, Tommy, I know you didn't ask a price, but somewhere between $800 and $1,000 gets your 890 motor rebuilt, with all those parts. Tim, what's going on, man? What's the difference between your blocks now versus the billet? An older one be switched to a billet? Man, that's like never had any idea that you guys really preferred these billet motors over cast. If I knew that 3 or 4 years ago, I would have saved a lot of time. These billet ones are a lot easier to put together than screwing with the cast motors. The cast motors are very raw, take a lot of time to finish. The billet ones, the guys at JR, they really make a pretty nice block. I've almost kind of compared it to, everybody kind of getting pretty familiar with the dart blocks, in big car engine world. JR has kind of stepped up to the plate and has given us all a pretty good little piece to start with. But to answer your question, Tim, what's the big difference on the motor like what you have, which is the Woods 3.5 Outlaw style engine? There's actually a big difference in performance mostly. We just can't shape the port like how you have your cast motor. The billet motors that JR are doing for me, they're coming pretty semi-finished in the ports. Okay, we're doing some detail work to finish it off, but we can't really change it the way that we have the Outlaw engines out of cast set up. So just to give you a quick example between the two, we have the valves at a 3-degree angle on the cast Outlaw motors, and that picked up about between straight up and down and putting them at an angle, that's about 10% more flow. So you have a lot more flow capability in the ports just by the valves being at an angle on the cast motors as compared to the billets. Now the billet motors, maybe, after tomorrow's talks, we'll be able to make some changes to them and accommodate some of those things that we found to work really well that we're doing on the cast motors. But yeah, so, and then to kind of go into more detail on your question about what what can be crossed over parts wise between the cast motors and the billets. Nothing. I mean, maybe the crank. The rod lengths are different. The piston heights are different. The cams are different. The valve diameters on some of them are the same, but they're really, it's kind of a completely different animal. Shorter rod on the billet motor, different kind of cam, different compression distance on the piston. So yeah, it's just a completely different rotating assembly, pretty much. So hopefully that answers your question, Tim. You want to stick with your cast motor. They're going to be hard to get. The one you have is probably the most sought after one from a performance standpoint. So we'll get you another one built up. Don't worry. Okay, guys. Well, nobody's really interested in asking any more questions here, so I'm gonna probably call it for tonight, and I'll update y'all after I go visit the JR bunch tomorrow. And I'm probably not going to take a bunch of pictures because they probably won't like that. But if they end up letting me, I will, and I'll share them with you. And they're supposed to have 27 CNC machines there. We'll find out. All right, you guys, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you next week.